What is up, my bodyweight warriors? Welcome back to another training vlog. Last week we had the straight arm session. This week is the other session I do, which is a bent arm session. Lately I've been doing a lot of high intensity, long rest period sort of work. So today we're going to be mixing up kind of a circuit style session, try and keep the intensity relatively high, just get the blood pumping and really try and push myself for a bit, which is nice for a change. There's also going to be a fair amount of movement, kind of Ido portal stuff as well, which I'm experimenting with at the moment. So with that being said, let's jump into the session.
I just wanna see the stars.
Jumping straight into today's workout, quite literally warming up here with just some different attempts on the trampoline into the foam pit, playing with different acrobatic stuff, trying to learn some new moves, put your body out of its comfort zone. Definitely one of my weak points, but it's just fun and it gets the blood pumping. Then I'd move on into the standard handstand practice. Because I'm focusing on the one-arm handstand, I make sure I added in a little bit of straddle mobility just at the beginning. The first exercise that I am trying to do is like these one-arm straddle handstand leans, I guess you could call them. This is where you're trying to shift the weight from one arm to the other whilst maintaining a good shoulder position and keeping the shoulder elevated. I think this is probably actually a little bit too advanced for me. I'm not really performing it particularly well. It's definitely learning a new skill. And then I'm pairing that with also these shapes that you make with your feet while trying to maintain good shoulder position regardless of what your feet are doing. After the handstand practice, we jump straight into the main strength training. I'm starting off with handstand push-up negatives, going for about a 6 to 10 second negative, focusing on performing it on a full range of motion on an elevated surface. And then straight away I'm pairing that with just one rep of a wall assisted handstand push-up, simply to add back in that concentric element of the movement. I do find if you do a lot of negative work, you kind of miss out on that actual like concentric, just doing the rep aspect of the exercise. The main reason for doing these eccentrics is kind of overloading the muscle because you are going to be stronger in that eccentric portion, but also getting used to the pattern of movement and learning how to balance in the handstand push-up. And then, as I said, we're jumping back onto the wall, just going for one rep here. So it's not to failure on either of the exercises, but the combination I feel works well in developing the handstand push-up. Keeping the rest period short on this strength training, only about 2 minutes between the pairings, of which I am pairing this exercise with weighted chin-ups. I've kind of moved away from unilateral one-arm chin-up movements, and in this cycle I'm kind of going for a bit of an overload phase, so I'm throwing in some weight on my body and trying to keep the pattern relatively general. So we're trying to overload the pull-up here, or the chin-up rather. I'm going for 35 to 40 kilos for 4 reps, so I think that works out to be about 45% of my body weight at the time. The form definitely does get a little bit grindy and you kind of slips a little bit, but that's fine because we're not looking for that kind of perfect form that you saw maybe in the warm-up where you've got that full scapular retraction, chest to bar. We're trying to overload that muscle, we're going to be struggling, so it's okay to break form a little bit on these sort of movements. But that is kind of it for the main strength element. Perform that for 4 sets in total of each exercise, and then we're going to jump into the circuit element where we're performing everything for 8 to 12 reps and keeping the rest period short between 30 and 60 seconds. There is a fair amount of movement, kind of Ido portal inspired floreo work in this workout, as you see. As I said, I'm in a different cycle at the moment and I'm kind of just experimenting with different movements. Was getting fed up of doing the same old grind, so I just wanted to play and have fun. One of the movements was this roll to QDR, which is kind of a 2-part movement chain. Going to be testing both your pushing strength and a little bit of mobility as well. It's really nice to start throwing in something different into your training, and Ido's stuff, if you like Ido or not, It is a really good test of strength and mobility and kind of body awareness and balance. It's got kind of everything thrown into one, which is nice to add to your training and can be pretty fun too. After those QDRs, we're jumping into a pretty standard sort of exercise, and that is the box jump. Just an explosive leg exercise as part of this circuit. I'm not looking to build any mass on my legs. In fact, I'm trying to reduce it down a little bit because they are a little bit weighty and definitely doesn't help for moves like the straddle planche. So I'm focusing on keeping plyometrics in my workout as they're sort of least likely to build mass or add any mass to it, but they still have a good explosive athletic basis to them. After the box jumps, I'm jumping into another movement-based exercise, which are these rotations into low bridge. This is kind of arguably more of a mobility exercise than it is a strength exercise, but it is surprisingly tough in the bridge position. If you haven't trained it much before, you're likely going to be weak in this position. It requires some kind of your muscles to be strong in a weird range of motion. And it's also, as I said earlier, it's that great test of mobility, of body awareness, of strength throughout a range of motion. After the bridge rotations, we're jumping into leg raises. This is probably one of my favorite core exercises that I keep coming back to. It's got some great transfer over into the front lever, as well as the press to handstand for compression. Try to minimize the use of the lats in this exercise and focus it more on the core and hip flexors, but hanging core work is just one of the best things that you can add into your training. After that, we're jumping straight back into the upper body work with some ring dips. Not going for anything particularly perfect here, we're just trying to rep it out, keep that rep range between 8 to 12 reps and push it near to failure. The only thing I'm making sure is I'm just keeping that lockout to a full lockout and a good range of motion, but I'm not too worried about rep tempo. Again, just shooting for those reps. This is going to be followed by some rope climbs, which if you do have a rope available to you, I really suggest throwing in some rope climbs into your training. It's quite a unique movement. It's unilateral, so it's going to transfer over to the one arm chin up, but it's just a really great test of your pulling strength. I was performing, I think, about 6 reps on each arm up, and then trying to slow down the eccentric on the way down, again for that transfer over into the one arm chin up. So after these rope climbs, we're jumping back into the movement style training where we're going for these Cortados, which is essentially kind of like a slow and controlled cartwheel, except there's a little bit of a pushing element into the top. But it's interesting with these movement exercises, because they are kind of more general, you actually do get a bit of a full body tax, especially these. If you're doing them for reps, can get quite taxing on the legs as well as the shoulders. But just incorporating in that control and switching up different ranges of motion, different movements, just keeping your training exciting. Then finally, the last exercise is probably one of my favorite hamstring exercises, as well as just posterior chain exercises, and that is the actual hamstring curl. We're not going for the intense variation here where your hips kind of shoot forward. We're simply trying to keep them in line, but focus on activation of the glutes and hamstrings, keeping the tension on them. As well as the glutes and hamstrings, and my pushing movements are probably the weak point of my training. I've always had a naturally kind of strong pull, which is why I guess I can do a full front lever, but my glutes and hamstrings and my pushing strength is definitely lacking. Anyway, after all of those exercises, we're just going to repeat through, again keeping that rest 30 to 60 seconds between exercises and about 2 to 3 minutes between rounds. Just thought I'd throw in a clip of one guy at gymnastics showing off a straddle planche. Finishing up the session with a prehab exercise. Last time we had the LYTPs. This time we're going for Cuban rotations, as this is more of a bent arm movement. I'm performing this for kind of 10 to 12 reps, although you can perform it for kind of 5 reps and use it as almost a strength-based exercise for developing moves like the planche. But if you're new to this exercise, I do recommend starting off light and working up into it, really focusing on that scapular activation. I was then supersetting this with the butcher's block, which you probably heard me mention time and time again. This is one of my favourite lat stretching exercises, as it just hits that insertion point for the lat and the tricep and the shoulder just so well. If you maintain a hollow body throughout this exercise, it just really transfers over into the handstand. I performed it for 10 reps, and then after performing 10 reps, kind of moving in and out of the range of motion, pause for 10 seconds with my arms in a 90-degree position. And you want to make sure your hands are slightly outside of shoulder width, so you're forcing that external rotation. Then finally, as I said, my pushing strength is a little bit weak, so I've been adding some tricep overhead extensions at the end of my sessions. Hopefully this is going to transfer over into moves like the handstand push-up, as well as just generally pushing in general. My biceps are being developed from straight arm strength and the one arm chin up, but my triceps are definitely lacking a little bit in recent months. So at the end of this session, I like to throw in some mobility work. Sometimes it's my daily mobility routine that I've made videos on. At the moment, it's just like kind of a general stretching routine. Nothing too major. I just spent 10 minutes kind of trying to get all of my ranges of motion, focusing mainly on the lower body and the straddle in particular. But there was also some front split work in there, as well as a few unique stretches, so I hope you guys maybe get some inspiration. But as I said, I've got 3 videos of 3 full body routines for stretching that I'll put in the description down below, so you can go check them out and apply them to your own training. But that is it for today. That is the end of the workout. I hope you guys enjoyed it. It is in the description down below. So that is it for the session, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed something a little bit different today. We had some more higher intensity in a circuit style kind of training, some movement floreo work in there as well. All good fun. As always, guys, if you enjoyed this video, hit that thumbs up button. I would really support it. Leave a comment, let me know what you thought. The full workout will be in the description down below. If you think you have a friend who might enjoy this video, then please share that with them. But that has been it for today, guys. Have a strong week and peace.